Hi, and welcome to the New York Now podcast. New York Now is a modern wholesale trade show experience for retailers and specialty buyers who are looking for a rich, diverse range of new products and exciting new brands. Located in the heart of New York City, where the latest in design and fashion emerge, New York Now is not just a trade show. It's a community driving style, success, discovery, innovation, and collaborations.
Hello, everyone. I'm Trish Borelli, Senior Attendee Marketing Manager at New York Now, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar titled Opening Your Virtual Doors, How to Start Selling Online. I'm here today with our presenter, Cameron Nixon, and guest speaker, Marie Letao. Cameron is a sales engineer with our friends over at Lightspeed, which happens to be the leading cloud-based commerce platform. He works directly with customers to ensure they know how to use the platform and are set up for success. I'm going to turn it over to Cameron to tell you a little bit more about himself. Cameron, thank you so much for being here with us today, and welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for that intro. Hi, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Cameron Nixon, and I'm a sales engineer here at Lightspeed. I've been in this sales engineer role for about a year and a half now, but prior to that, I worked as part of our support team. I actually spent a year working with our e-com support team, so I'm very familiar with the ins and outs of that platform. I'm very happy to have Marie Letao here with me as well. She's the owner of Bouche Vee and has been a Lightspeed customer since 2018. Today, we're going to be talking to you about all the steps you can take to get ready to sell online. First off, I would just like to highlight our vision here at Lightspeed, which I think is more important than ever during these difficult times. Our mission is to bring cities and communities to life by powering independent businesses. This means giving you the tools that you need to allow your business to survive and compete with the big box retailers that tend to dominate the marketplace. So, speaking of those tools, today we're going to be focusing on how to open your virtual doors and start selling online. Obviously, when preparing a website, there's a lot of things to consider, so we're going to try and break it down into some of the key areas to focus on while you're building out your website. The first thing that we're going to talk about is your stock. Obviously, with this website, you're going to be selling the products from your store online. So there's a few important things to consider when preparing these products for your site. When adding inventory onto your website, starting out with 8 to 10 products is generally a good option just to get you up and running. For these items, you'll want to make sure that you currently have them in inventory. You certainly don't want to launch your website and start receiving orders for items that you don't currently have in stock, and then force your customers to wait until you receive them. So it's very important to make sure that you have sufficient inventory for each of the items that you're going to list on your website. The next thing you're going to want to ensure is that you're able to sell these items online. Sometimes there may be agreements with certain vendors or state or provincial regulations that prohibit merchants from selling products online. So you'll definitely want to make sure that there's nothing stopping you from listing these products on sale for your site. You'll also want to make sure that you're able to ship these items out. You may have products in the store that are larger or maybe more fragile and are less easy to ship. So especially when first starting out, it's very smart to select items that you're easily able to ship out to your customers when picking the products that you're going to link to that website. You will also want to make sure that you can find or create at least one image for each of the items you're going to list on the site. E-commerce is a very visual medium, and the photos that are displayed on your site are what will make the first impression on your customers. So it's important to have photos that clearly highlight each of your items. It's also important that you're able to create content like a short and long description for the products. Having an image is certainly necessary, but there's definitely information that isn't as easy to display in a photo. So you'll need to add some text descriptions highlighting the features of each of your products. The other thing too, when we're suggesting here that it's important to be able to create this content, this really means that you should be able to, set aside some time so that you're actually able to write this content up yourself, rather than just copying and pasting it over from a supplier's description. Having that unique content on your site will both help with your SEO and will help make your website stand out from a regular shop. So finally, especially if you're starting off with a smaller selection of items, it's important that each of the products are related to another item being listed on your site. You want to choose a cohesive selection of items that both represent your individual brand, but also relate to each other in some way. This will make the shopping experience much more manageable for your customers and is more likely to encourage customers to purchase additional related items. To dig deeper on the descriptions you'll be listing for your items online, there's some key points that you're going to want to make sure you include. The basics that you should absolutely highlight are things like sizing for that item, the weight or the materials used in it, along with any other pertinent information about that product's components. Though this information should definitely be included in your descriptions, at the same time, you don't want your product pages to just read like a simple fact sheet. You should focus on highlighting the benefits of this item and really try and craft a narrative around that specific product. This certainly doesn't need to be a novel's worth of text, but you should try and point out what's in it for the customer if they purchase this item, or how this product might make their lives better. Also, if there's maybe a specific problem that this item was designed to solve, that's another great thing to cover in your product descriptions. When it comes to the photos that you're uploading to your site, there's also some important things to keep in mind. Though I've mentioned earlier that you'd want to have at least one image for your items, you should really try and feature multiple images for each product, especially if these items come in different colors or styles. If the item has a special detail, you will also want to take a close-up photo that highlights this for anyone browsing your site, so they can really get a full picture of the product that they're looking at online. You should also consider watermarking all of your images. This may sound complex, but it's actually quite a simple process and will serve you well in the long run. With a watermarked image, you're basically preventing, or at the very least discouraging, the external use of your photos, and you're also reinforcing your brand's image on the web. Finally, you'll want to make sure that you're consistent with your product photos. As we've mentioned, e-commerce is a very visually focused medium, and there's nothing more jarring than a bunch of photos on a page that are all shot with different lighting or a different backdrop or focus. So try as best as possible to keep your photos consistent by using the same lighting and positioning across all images. This will both make your items look better and make your site as a whole much more approachable and easier to navigate. So at this point, you've got your products on the site. We've got some text content attached to each of them and some beautiful photos too. The next thing you're going to want to focus on is optimizing the browsing experience for your customers. One of the most important things you can do to make the browsing experience better for your customers is to put some serious thought into how your category structure is organized on the site. I find that it helps to think of category pages like aisles in your store. You'd never put two items that are completely unrelated side by side in your retail store, so why would you do this on your site? It's super important to group your products together in a way that makes sense to your customer. Beyond the way in which they're organized, the way that your categories are named are also very important. When you're naming your categories, you should be as specific as possible and use simple terms that are directly related to each of your products. You should also try and be as concise as possible. Now is definitely not the time to add a lot of extra details or text, and instead you should try and use one or two words in the title of each category. If you're not sure where to start with any of this, then it really helps to do some research. You can use a tool like Google Keyword Planner to find what people are searching the internet for. So whether it's men's button-up shirts or more popular or something more generic like men's shirts, and then you can actually take these keywords back onto your site and use these when you're building out those category structure to make sure that you're optimizing your website's findability and the ease of navigation on the web. The next thing you should consider is prompting your customers to leave reviews on your site. 78% of consumers surveyed consider online reviews as trustworthy as a personal recommendation, so these can prove invaluable to your e-com business. There's multiple different ways to encourage customers to leave a review for a product on your site. You could choose to simply include that prompt in their email order confirmation, or if you want to do something a bit more direct, you could choose to send out a link to that customer a week or maybe a month after they make that purchase, encouraging them to go and write that review. You can even choose to incentivize your customers to review your items by offering them a discount or a promo code for a next order if they leave you a review. This doesn't need to be anything huge. It could be something as simple as, maybe $5 off or 5% off, but just feeling like that customer is getting something out of that process is going to make them much more likely to actually visit your site and leave that review. And overall, product reviews are a great way of showing that you have an active and engaged customer base, and they help to provide new customers visiting your site a sense of trust and security while they're shopping. For a customer to leave a review, they would have had to have first made a purchase on your site, and getting your customer to actually complete their order online can be one of the hardest parts of running an e-commerce shop. It's been reported that as many as 70% of customers who add items to their cart on a site won't ultimately end up making that purchase. To make this process easier, you're going to want to make sure that you have streamlined the checkout as much as possible. I always recommend that when people are first getting their website ready to launch, that they actually walk through the checkout process themselves as if they were a customer. This allows you to see exactly what it is your customers will be using when they eventually start shopping on your site. Doing this allows you to see if you're asking for too much information that isn't necessary, like a landline number in addition to a cell phone number, or if you're forcing them to select something like a gender to complete the checkout. You can go through then and remove any of the unnecessary fields to try and make the checkout as straightforward as possible for everyone who wants to place an order from your shop. And for customers who are visiting your site, adding items to their cart and then leaving, you can consider using an app to directly target these people. The Abandoned Cart Recovery or My Abandoned Cart apps are both available in our eCom App Store, and these will send an automated email to anyone who visits your site and fills up their cart but doesn't complete that purchase. You have full control over the text for these emails, so you can craft a nice message to gently prompt your customers to return to the site and win back those sales. You can even consider offering a small discount as part of these abandoned cart emails to further increase the chance that the customer will return and place their order. Now that we've got your products configured and your site is fully optimized, we're going to want to make sure that you have all the tools and procedures in place so that you are ready to start selling online. One of the biggest things that you're going to want to consider is the shipping options that you're offering on your website. The three main shipping types that are available to merchants are integrated, flat rate, and pickup in store. I'm going to talk at length about integrated shipping options on the next slide, so first we'll discuss flat rates and pickup in store. With flat rate shipping, you as the merchant will be setting the prices that you want to charge for your orders. As the name would imply, these would be a flat rate, something like $5, $10, $15, or $20 per shipment. The benefit of flat rate shipping is that it's generally very simple to configure, and it gives you an easy number to display to your customers so that there's no surprises when it comes time to check out. However, the downside of flat rate shipping is that you're always going to be slightly undercharging or overcharging your customers, as the actual cost to ship will surely fluctuate with each order. This is why it's important to spend some time on the shipping calculator for whatever carrier it is you plan to use, so you can get a sense of what rates you're actually going to be paying. Essentially, every carrier out there offers some form of calculator on their website, so it's a great idea to just spend a bit of time there, plug in some of the addresses that you expect to be sending packages to, along with the approximate rates, or along with the approximate weight values for your items, and that will give you an idea of what rates you can expect to be paying. Now, an even simpler option than flat rate shipping is the option to pick up your purchases in store. Now, with the COVID-19 pandemic, we know that many stores are closed to retail traffic. As a solution, you may instead want to offer something like curbside pickup, where your customers can come and safely pick up their orders outside your retail shop. Regardless of the shipping strategy you choose, you're going to want to ensure that you have adequate packing supplies on hand. The last thing you want to have to do is to constantly run back and forth between the post office or office supply store to buy packaging materials every time you get an order. So it really pays to have a supply readily available and on hand for when they start coming through. The final thing to keep in mind is that you should also try and be as transparent as possible regarding the fees you'll be charging, because no one likes surprises when they get to the checkout. I had mentioned integrated shipping earlier, and merchants using Lightspeed eCom have access to two different services that enable this functionality, EasyPost and ShipStation. These two pieces of software allow you to connect your website with whatever carrier it is you want to use to send out your packages, whether that's UPS, FedEx, Canada Post, or whomever else. They connect with all the major players in the game. With that connection, customers will see and will be charged a live rate for their shipment at checkout. The rate they see will be based on the address that the customer enters, along with the weights and dimensions entered for the products in that customer's cart. This rate should represent the true cost of that shipment, so you won't have to worry about overcharging or undercharging your customers. They're going to pay the same price that it's actually costing you to send that package out. The other added benefit with these integrations is that once the customer actually checks out using one of these shipping options, merchants can generate a shipping label for that order right from within the back office. So at that point, you receive your order from the website. All you have to do is package it up. You can print your shipping label out, put it on your package, and you're ready to go. Once it's actually dropped off at the post office or they've come and picked it up, the integrations also generate a tracking number for that shipment, which you can then send to the customer so they can follow the steps of that delivery. All of this helps to streamline the order fulfillment process, and it ultimately takes a lot of the guesswork out of determining the shipping rates you're going to charge. When it comes to shipping, 80% of consumers list free shipping as their top incentive for shopping online. So if you're able to perhaps increase the prices of the items when they're sold online to cover their shipping fees, this can be a great incentive for your customer as they get a clear sense of what they're finally going to be charged when they go through and complete that order. Also, 55% of shoppers who abandoned their carts did so because of extra costs like shipping, taxes, and fees. So again, it pays to be transparent about the rates you'll be charging. So let's review a few handy tips to keep in mind when planning out your shipping. If you're going to be offering free shipping above a certain amount, you'll want to identify your median order value. You can choose to either set your free shipping tier to be right at this value, or you can move it a little higher to encourage customers to spend more on your site. However, you'll certainly want to ensure that your free shipping tier is not below that median order value, because this way you'll find yourself eating a lot of costs and losing a lot of money on the shipping charges. You should also showcase your shipping policy somewhere clear and evident on your site, like a banner or a button. So again, customers aren't experiencing any surprises when they finally go through to the checkout. And finally, you can consider incorporating a loyalty program that might offer free shipping or maybe something like points for their purchase as an incentive to get customers to go through and place their order. After you've got your shipping configured, you'll want to ensure that you're able to take payment on your site. To do so, you'll need to select a processor and enter their credentials on your site. We here at Lightspeed offer our own integrated processing through Lightspeed Payments, but we also work with some of the other biggest players out there like Cayenne, Stripe, and PayPal. It may ultimately be beneficial to offer your customers a selection of payment processors on your site so that they can find one that they're familiar with and feel comfortable entering their credit card details into. One of the final steps that you'll take before launching your site would be connecting your domain. Your website domain is what people will use to access your website and is another important part of your company branding. If you already have a custom domain, you're ahead of the game. If you don't own one, you can use a tool like GoDaddy or Google Domains to first ensure that your store's name is available. Once you've found the perfect domain name, you'll want to purchase that and connect it to your shop. This will allow your customers to use that domain name to access your site. This will also give you a nice branded URL that you can share via social media and other channels. So to summarize, the first thing to tackle is going to be adding your products online and featuring them with a well-written description and clear branded photos. The next thing you'll want to do is to optimize the browsing experience by using clean and organized categories along with a streamlined and simple checkout process. Finally, you'll have to take care of the logistics by selecting and setting up your shipping options and connecting your payment processing. Now, I'm very happy to have Marie Latal here for a little Q&A session. Marie opened up her shop, Bouche Bée, in Montreal in 2018, where she offers a selection of local and imported gifts, stationery, and home products. And Marie actually started her online store this year. So hi there, Marie. How are you doing?
Hi, Cameron. Thank you for the presentation. Hello, everyone.
Yeah. So I was wondering if you could tell me about how the COVID-19 pandemic has influenced your decision to open your online shop.
Yeah, so the store has been closed for almost 6 weeks now. So obviously it was unexpected. Concretely, we were at a complete stop. Last year, I decided to move forward for the e-com solution because I wanted to have another option. But probably like many other people who are listening to us right now, I found many reasons to not do it. It was a lot of work, a lot of work, and obviously I didn't have time for that. So when I closed the door of my store And a couple of weeks ago, I realized how convenient it would have been to have an e-shop already set up.
Mm-hmm.
I received a lot of demands from our customers. They were looking for self-care products. Sorry, they wanted to encourage us, make sure that we'll be able to hold on during this hard period. Sure. So now that I had time, that unexpected free time, I decided to work hard on the website and to launch it.
Great. In terms of the website, what were some of the e-com elements that you're maybe most nervous about implementing, and what did you do to overcome those challenges? I'm sure you had a few challenges along the way.
Yeah, there are many things to do before being able to launch an e-com.
For sure.
It took me months to really decide to work on it. For me, I was nervous about the setup of the shipping, the payment method, and also the domain name transfer. I know it's 3 very important steps. And I don't know, probably because I didn't have any knowledge about that, and I never had an e-shop before this one. So I fixed it the way I fixed a lot of stuff, even if in 2020 people don't like that very much, but I spoke into the phone. At Lightspeed, for example, you have an amazing support. So every day during working on the website, I list the things that I have to figure. And when I had a couple of them, I called the support and we went through the list. So it's time saving to have this help. I did the same for Post Canada and the service that I choose for payment processing. I followed the instruction. I also did some steps with the person guiding me. I trusted myself doing the step by step, and everything is working very well since the beginning now. So, yeah.
That's great. So, sort of start to finish, how long did you think it actually took you to get your e-com store set up?
We did the first draft of development and design a couple of months ago, but it stayed on hold for a very long time. Okay. So when I decided that the e-com have to be launched, it took us 10 days. But that's all I was working on. So I guess it was easier that way to be focused and on one thing to manage, to not have the store open and the day-to-day task.
For sure, yeah. If you've got one thing to work towards, it definitely makes it a lot easier. So when you were first getting started, how many products did you add, and did you find it hard to sort of manage the inventory that you had in stock in the store and what you were going to be selling online?
I launched the e-shop with more than 300 products.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I realize now it's a lot. But I choose to have enough items in every category that I wanted to present to give choice to customers. I wanted them to feel that they're shopping in the store, recognize the selection, the brands that they like, etc. So actually adding inventory is not that hard. It takes time. So I had help from one of my employees, Tony. She helped me with a product description. I also took as many pictures that I can to personalize the presentation. I still try to keep going to add products as soon as I can. And also sometimes customers ask for products that they are looking for or don't find on the e-shop, so I just had them. Also, a good advice. Lately, I also asked to one of my providers if he could send me a short description for items that I keep in stock, because I didn't have time to do it, and it was a very specific description that you need to explain to the customer. And I knew that the products might be liked on the e-shop, so he helped me with that. And
Yeah, no, I was going to say the photos on your website especially are great. They really sort of match the branding from your store, so it creates a really nice effect.
Thank you.
So my pleasure. After you launched your shop, how did you see your customer engagement increase?
Well, first, when I publicly announced that I was working on it, on the e-shop, the response was unbelievable. people from all over the Quebec and Canada were thrilled to have the opportunity to shop Bouche Bée selection. And since we launched it, it's amazing to see how, for example, for us, Instagram followers are now real customers. Before that, they were just looking at the stories and pictures I post, hoping, I guess, visit the store one day. And now, every day since the e-shop is open, I send orders, for example, with our own candles, which is our own collection. And I know that it was a very frustrating for people not be able to buy specifically this product because you can only find it at Bouche Bée. Now it's amazing. Now you can really reach people that want to encourage you from all over the country. Even in Europe, we have demands, so that's amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible. It sounds like you've done a great job. You've got your website up and running. People are really responding to it well. So, I mean, what would you say one tip would be that you would give to a retailer who's looking to set up their e-com?
There are so many. I think this one might be the one that you need right now. Keep it simple. Focus on products. Forget, at least for now, the cute detail or the nice feature. Just make sure that your e-com is at your image, that it feels like home, that the product description are almost like it's you talking to the customers, and that whoever wants to spend money and encourage you find easily the way to do it. So you will have time to adjust later.
Perfect. Well, yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It was really great to have you here sort of share that real customer experience with.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, so thanks everyone for your time. We're going to spend about the next sort of 15 minutes going through some of your questions. So there was a question here asking about any in-person training available, or whether it's just done by phone or webinar. So I can comment definitely from the Lightspeed perspective. We don't actually do sort of in-person one-on-one training. We do most of it via either video conferencing or via webinars. We do have a really great customer success team. So if you were to sign up with the platform, they would be your sort of, first people who you would deal with after signing up. They would meet with you, go through your training sessions, really walk you through the product and make sure that you're familiar with the ins and outs of it before going live. And then following that, like Marie was suggesting, we do have 24/7 support. That's always included in all of our packages, so you're never going to be charged anything extra for that. So if you ever have any questions, it doesn't necessarily be to call in about an issue. If want a bit more info about something, we're always happy to help out with that. So there was another question here. They said they have a website already which allows them to sell online, and ask if you have to get a separate domain name for online shopping. So I would definitely say it's probably a bad idea to get a separate domain name. Your domain name is really your brand. So you want to make sure that that's what people know online. That's what people are searching for, and that's what you're driving traffic to. So if you have that website that's able to, accept those online orders, I would certainly recommend keeping that existing domain so you can keep that brand strong and make sure that it's got, that strong presence on the internet. So there's a question about switching from another platform if we're already selling online. I mean, this process is certainly going to vary, depending what platform it is you're using and what platform it is you're looking to move to. We at Lightspeed certainly have a number of people who, start out with either Squarespace sites or WooCommerce sites and then decide that they want to move over to our system. So there's never really a straight sort of one-to-one port because, every single web platform is designed by a team somewhere, and it's never going to be the same place to place. But what we often end up doing is you should be able to export the data from your site. So that'll normally give you some sort of spreadsheet file. And then it's really just a question of formatting that spreadsheet file to the template that we use on Lightspeed. And then we can actually import the information onto our end. So it would pull all that work that you've already entered on that site and bring it over onto our platform. There was a question here about, do you recommend using a professional photographer and stylist? I certainly wouldn't say that it's necessarily recommended. I mean, nowadays cell phone cameras have gotten so good. Digital cameras are cheap and easily accessible. Point and shoot is easier than ever. So I don't necessarily think that you need to hire a professional. I know we do have some great blog posts on our website with some kind of common like photography sort of tips and tricks to keep in mind when you're doing product photos. But I mean, if you have the bandwidth and if you really want to, have that super clean and professional look, a professional photographer would, certainly help you get there. But I absolutely wouldn't say that it's an essential thing by any means. So there's another question here about watermarking an image. So there's a bunch of different ways of doing it. There's a ton of free tools available online. So you essentially just choose the watermark that's going to be added, and then you upload your files and it attaches it to them. It can also easily be done with any sort of image editing software. So if you have someone who's familiar with Photoshop, it should be a really simple process on that end. And like I was mentioning during my presentation, it does just really help, establish your brand, sort of cement it, and it discourages other people from, using those photos online for their own business. So you get to really, sort of keep the work that you've put into those sites. There's a question about Google Keyword Planner, free to use. Yes, that's a totally free tool that they offer. It basically just sort of gives you like analytics-like insight into what the most sort of common search terms are that people are using on the internet. So there's a question here about international orders. When it comes to international orders, with our e-com platform, you certainly have the ability to sell to your home country as well to other countries. We certainly do have merchants who are operating in the US who are selling to customers in Canada, customers who are operating in Canada who are selling to people in the US and in Europe. When it comes to the shipping for those different countries, there's a few different ways of approaching it. You can have, your more kind of generic flat rate shipping options, like I was describing in my presentation. But if you go through and use either EasyPost or ShipStation, you do have the ability to pull rates for those international orders. It just requires a few different extra steps in configuring your products. There's a code that will need to be attached to your items, and that's just used for customs, and that's what enables those international rates to be displayed. So yeah, that's certainly something that we handle. So tips for marketing your website. I mean, there's no sort of single solution that's going to work best for everyone. I think it really all depends how it is that your customers are most receptive to marketing. So, I mean, depending on your business, social media might be an absolutely essential part of that marketing tool where you can, send posts, you can do things like Instagram Live, you can do Facebook ads. But if your customers aren't using those different social media platforms, it's not going to be as relevant for you. So in that case, you may want to look to, your more sort of traditional email campaigns, or even stuff like newspaper campaigns, or, sort of mail flyers. Obviously, that requires a bit more time and money than something that's a bit more instant than a social media channel. But it's all about sort of knowing your customers and knowing how best to reach them. So there's a quick question here about how our platform differs from other platforms like Shopify. So, I mean, Shopify, I'm certainly not going to say anything bad about them. They're a great solution that offers, a very powerful e-commerce tool. Whereas Shopify started in the e-commerce world, Lightspeed, we started in the physical retail world. So that's kind of our bread and butter. So inventory management tools are super strong with our platform, but we do also have the e-commerce portion that is tied back to your retail POS. So you have all of that powerful functionality from our software that we've developed over years, and then it's linked into this e-commerce platform that offers all the functionality that I just covered during that presentation. So really, it's two different approaches to the same solution. There's certainly pros and cons to each of them, but yeah, there's lots of options out there. Lightspeed is definitely among some of the best, or I would certainly say it's among one of the best. There's a question here about customer reviews and how we suggest featuring them on the store. I think this particular question was asking about apps. Speaking specifically to our e-com platform, we actually don't rely on an app for it. It is just a feature that's built into the system itself. So, right off the bat, once you have your products available online, you're able to accept reviews on the platform. So I'm sure, this may differ from website to website. from web platform to web platform. So it would just be a question of seeing what it is that the web service that you guys are currently using does offer. But yeah, it is something that we automatically have available through our system. So I think that wraps up about the time that we have for Q&A. Thank you guys so much for attending today. I hope you found this a valuable experience, and I hope you guys all have the best and are able to make the most out of these difficult times.
Thank you for listening to the New York Now podcast. Make sure to tune in weekly for engaging and insightful conversations touching on the most relevant topics facing our community today. Visit NewYorkNow.com to learn more about our market and how you can join in on the conversation.